Hi, I'm Ben Hovland, and I'm a commissioner with the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. This has been a uniquely challenging time as we are still adapting to life during the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has created unprecedented challenges for state and local election officials as they diligently work to administer safe, secure, accessible, and accurate elections. With each primary this year, election officials have developed best practices and learned how to meet the extraordinary challenges they face. This is not an easy job, and the increased turnout in a presidential election year makes the pressure even higher. This video will serve to show some of the recommended steps election officials and poll workers can take to prepare in-person voting locations for upcoming elections. I'd like to thank the Washington, D.C. Board of Elections for allowing us to use their facility to demonstrate some of these procedures and safety measures. I'd also like to thank all election officials out there working hard. Thank you. Good afternoon. It's great to be here with Alice Miller, the Executive Director of the D.C. Board of Elections. The D.C. Board has been kind enough to let us come visit their polling location here to talk about how voting with the COVID-19 pandemic is different these days. We're going to have a look around their polling place and talk about how voters, poll workers, and election officials are dealing with this election during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, Commissioner Hovland. Happy to have you. I'm so happy you decided to use our facility as an example of what we're doing. I'm sure others are doing just as much. And we can take a look around, a walk around, and I'll show you some of the things that we put in place to make certain that our voters are safe, our workers are safe, and even the election officials are safe.
While most states and jurisdictions will see a record number of mail or absentee ballots this year, we know many Americans will need or want to vote in person. It is critical that those locations are as safe as possible. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the CDC recommends election officials and workers to limit the number of voters in the facility by moving lines outdoors if weather permits, and to have plans to manage lines to ensure social distancing can be maintained.
So the voters come in, they sanitize, and after they sanitize, the next thing we would do if they didn't have a mask, we would give them a mask. And as you can see, this is a mask. All of our masks have been individually put inside a Ziploc bags to stop cross-contamination.
That's great. Well, and certainly we know, particularly in this time of social distancing, with the spacing that we see on the floor, with needing to wipe down equipment, with the personal protective equipment that goes into it, we see it takes more time to vote than it would in a traditional environment.
That's absolutely right, especially since we're limited to 10 people in the vote center at one time, trying to respect the social gathering guidelines.
The Centers for Disease Control outline a variety of recommendations for voting locations, election workers, and voters. These measures include increased distance between voting booths to ensure that voters remain 6 feet apart. Modify the polling location layout to ensure voters move in one direction to avoid bottlenecks, such as single doors for entry and exit. Ask voters to use hand sanitizer upon entering. If identification is required, ask voters to hold their ID or place it on the table for examination to eliminate the need for poll workers to touch it. Place markings or decals on the floor to remind voters to maintain at least 6 feet of space from other voters and workers. Physical barriers can be used to protect workers and voters when physical distance cannot be maintained. For example, at registration desks or between voting stations. Voting machines, laptops, tablets, keyboards, and reusable ballot cards should be disinfected routinely. Ask voters to use hand sanitizer when exiting the voting location. After the polling location closes, all equipment and transport cases should be cleaned and disinfected following the manufacturer's instructions prior to returning it to the election authority. We know one of the populations that mail ballots in particular don't work for are some Americans with disabilities. can you talk about some of your in-person voting options for Americans with disabilities, or your curbside options?
Our curbside options are available at all of our vote centers. Individuals 65 or older, or individuals who are unable to physically get out of their vehicle to come into the vote center can vote by curbside. We take the ballot out to the voter and have the voter vote their ballot in the car, and then we bring it back in and deposit it. We also have in our vote centers individuals who may want to come in but may have some level of disability that they're not able to vote a paper ballot.
Well, Alice Miller and the DC Board of Elections, we thank you for having us and showing us all the work that you've done to help make your polling places as safe as possible for voters and election workers here in the district.
The U.S. Election Assistance Commission understands election officials and voters may have questions and concerns regarding the novel coronavirus and COVID-19. As part of our clearinghouse function, we are working with federal partners and election officials to compile and offer resources. Thank you, and please stay safe.